Hey, so the WoW Battle for Azeroth closed beta opened yesterday. This is just going to be a rant on my thoughts of the current state of the development of the beta, uh, which is interesting. I guess first, the expansion still feels like it's in the alpha phase, because I guess at this point it is, since it just opened up, I think, this morning, yesterday night. A lot of the voiceovers are just missing, and a lot of the cutscenes are filler, which I want to explain in more detail because it's funny, but I think that might give away a spoiler. Pretty ridiculous spoiler, something a lot of you probably aren't going to expect. Somebody's back. Actually, multiple people are back. Um, it's funny too, because sometimes they won't even have a filler cutscene. You'll just get a system message that says, "Awesome cutscene." See that? Awesome cutscene. Um, anyway, the beta basically starts with a pretty long scenario instance where you're either following around Sylvanas if you're Horde, or Anduin if you're Alliance. And you battle the opposite faction and a bunch of giant siege tanks because apparently that's all Blizzard could come up with for the past 11 years. And a bunch of orcs and shit. It's sort of lame, but I do have to preface that judgment by saying that pretty biased against scenarios because I always thought they were tedious and really boring, and I'm glad that after Mists of Pandaria was done that they did not implement those anymore in the future. In fact, I think those stopped being like a thing after the first couple patches of Mists of Pandaria because they were so just they didn't make sense. And I was pretty upset that they brought those back in Legion with the invasion points, which were also really boring and tedious. I mean, I'd rather have been doing world quests than completing invasion points. But I digress. The placeholder dialogue they got going right now, pretty bad. It's a bit corny. It doesn't really make sense. It's not always relevant. Occasionally they'll have voiced dialogue that doesn't match the closed captions, and then the voiceover will stop and all you have are closed captions, which aren't, like, sometimes seem non sequitur to what was voiced. Um, just think of the movie Avatar and think of the one liners from Avatar in those really dramatic moments, and that's essentially what we have going on in the beta right now, the alpha beta of Battle for Azeroth. Um, Again, trying to avoid spoilers here, but essentially, what I've gleaned, and I think I saw someone else mention this on the forums, that Sylvanas is basically a Garrosh 2.0, and if you played Warlords of Draenor, you might have some idea of what that means exactly, but I don't know. It seems like she was such a dynamic character in Legion when she became War Chief, and now it's just like she's this kind of flat, "I'm the War Chief, and we gotta do whatever we can to kill the Alliance, no matter what happens." Um, so that's it as far as um, I guess like the narrative aspects of the game. Oh, and Jaina's back. She's looking pretty badass too. She looks like she aged about 20 years. I don't know where she was for. I have a feeling Thrall's gonna come back too. Anyway, moving on to the technical gameplay aspects. Certain talents have been reworked or just removed. Blah blah blah. Balancing or whatever. Balancing. Blood elves now have golden eyes, which is interesting. I think Blizzard got so sick of using that fell green for an entire expansion on everything that they just had to remove that color palette from the game entirely. But the Blood Elves are looking pretty nice with those golden eyes. Just Google it. Check it out. Void Elves are cool. So artifact weapons are no longer a thing, which is also interesting because, like, what happened? These legendary mythic weapons that wielded by Elodai, the strongest mage ever. Let's just, get rid of it. What did you vendor it? Where did it go? Do something with it. We should have some sort. You can transmog it. But yeah, other than that, no. Now, so we're back to pre-Legion paradigm in which you're gonna have to run those raids and just hope that you get your weapon slot so that you can do some damage. Legendaries aren't really a thing as much anymore. It's all about epics again, which I think is kind of cool. It's a little more, yeah. The artifact thing was kind of like, okay, it's a grind. I'm just grinding to power up my weapon, very minuscule intervals. But honestly, it was like kind of like worse than having to get a weapon because it's like now I need 3 relic slots to fill with high eye level. So this is probably better. Yeah. So now we're getting a necklace, and you powered up kind of the same way as you powered up the artifact weapon. You get these azurite things, stone things, and your necklace levels up, and according to the level of your necklace, certain pieces of gear have a skill tree, sort of like relics had in the Netherlight Crucible, which is cool. It's a little more involved than the Netherlight Crucible. There's like 4 or 5 choices per tier, and there's like 3 or 4 tiers. I think this is on rare and up items, which makes sense. So that'll be a whole interesting mechanic in endgame, I think. As a side note, Anduin, back to the narrative, I don't think he really lives up to Variant. But what are you gonna do? I miss Illidan. Hopefully he'll make a cameo. I'm doubting it though, because it seems like for each expansion we have characters who are just we're missing completely. Jaina's gone all of Legion. Thrall's been gone since after Cataclysm. Or was he in Draenor? Yeah, or I don't know. He's gone though. Oh, every ability now has a 1.5 second global cooldown, which sort of gives the game a Burning Crusade type feel, which I'm actually enjoying right now. A lot of people are complaining about it, but I think those are the newcomers, not none of these guys around for vanilla who are complaining about these global cooldowns. I mean, it's not as bad as like Final Fantasy 14, where everything's on like a 2.8 seconds. It's ridiculous, like falling asleep during your global cooldowns, which is honestly sort of a fun mechanic in Final Fantasy 14, because if you messed up your rotation, it was incredibly punishing because you've essentially lost 3 whole seconds of DPS. Where in WoW, you can kind of like catch back up because if you make a mistake, in a sense. Um, so that I don't know what that's about. I don't know if they're gonna re-implement haste as sort of a global cooldown reducer at 120. We'll see. Enough people are complaining about it that I feel like they're going to remove that change. And there's a bunch of new dungeons. I think there's 4 or 5 you can access right away at 108. Haven't tried any of them yet, but I want to, and I want to make an entirely new one-shot video just talking about the dungeons, because I think I'm going to make a whole series on this beta, this expansion, because it seems pretty cool. I think we're going back to the roots. Back to the roots of WoW that we loved so much. Blizzard is definitely trying to re-engage the old WoW players from vanilla and BC. It's what I'm seeing with the feel of this, how they've retooled the mechanics in this expansion. Not to mention the fact they've announced classic servers. So we'll see how that works out. We're going to see BC servers maybe. I don't know. And that's about it so far. Aside from that, the graphics and textures have seemed to be slightly enhanced, which we have to say we got like, I think PlayStation 3 graphics maybe in the newer areas. So yeah, if you got beta access, say so in the comments. Maybe we can get a YouTube group together, run dungeons, and level up. Other than that, that's about it. Enjoy the beta. I'll see you in Azeroth.